Hey dolls, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very special episode. It is episode 14, but not only that, we were fortunate enough to have this episode fall on Friday the 13th. And you all requested a special episode, something different, so I am having an hour-long episode. On top of that, I did go on an exciting ghost tour, and as you can see, I am not in my dining room. I am actually in what has now become one of my favorite places. This is the Haunted OC headquarters. So I went on a ghost tour with Haunted Orange County and they took us all around Santa Ana. I chose Santa Ana because it is 150 years old. I've always heard stories growing up, especially because that's my hometown. And I actually learned so much on that tour. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, and I think you all are going to love it. So I am going to be mixing these stories in with the vlog footage that I took for the tour. Now, if you go to hauntedoc.com, they have different tour locations. So they have Santa Ana, Black Star Canyon, San Juan Capistrano, and a few others. So if you're in the area, I definitely recommend you come out to those tours. They're all so informative and there's so much history behind them. So it's not only about ghosts and haunting, but you actually learn a lot of the building's history. So that was one of my favorite things. I took my mom and I took some family with us. I chose 5 winners. I know I said 3 in the beginning and then I said 4 and then I changed it to 5 because I just wanted I wanted more of you guys to experience this with me, and you all were so excited. So fortunately, Haunted OC was kind enough to let me add all of you guys on, and I was really excited about that. Okay, dolls, so the first footage you're going to see is when we first get to the How Waffle Mansion, and that is where the tour starts. So let's get into this tour.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
Thank you for having
us. Ghost tours are incredible because they're always walking tours, and the walking tours are the best way to get up close and personal with the buildings. You know, everybody drives through town, they go, oh, look at the old buildings, but you never get to feel the old buildings. Santa Ana is 150 years old. And you can't have anything that's 150 years old without having some energies left. How many people here believe that sometimes the world of the dead can get mixed up with the world of the living?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I believe.
Preach.
The stories that I'm going to tell you tonight are real. Ernie does not allow any of his tour guides to make it up as we go along because we could. I could just point, you wouldn't know, and I could tell you great stories, but Ernie does not allow that from any of his tour guides. I'm going to tell you these stories. The stories are real. You're going to have to trust me on some of them. Some of them are Lulu's. How about if we have one big ghost noise before we leave? Ready? Let's head on out. We are standing at the backside of what's called the Old Courthouse. Can anybody tell me if they recognize that building from a very popular TV series?
American Horror Story. Damn.
So, why is this foundation on our ghost walk? I'm so sorry, it's not haunted. It's just a very cool piece of local history. Oh, I wish it was. And if Ernie wasn't here, I'd make it up. However, the building across the street sure as blazes is. Ooh. You didn't even see it over there. When the elementary school moved to a more modern facility, it became the YMCA. The YMCA was a very, very important part of every community, and every city had one. What's the YMCA stand for? Young Men's Christian Association. And boy, back in the Victorian era, that was big stuff. Because if you were traveling from, say, San Diego to Los Angeles to San Francisco, where could a young man stay and still keep his reputation intact? He could stay at the YMCA. He could stay there overnight. He could stay there a few weeks. He could live there for a few months, Bible study, the whole thing. But this big, glorious building was never haunted until the 1950s, when one gentleman renting a tiny little room there was brutally hacked to death in the hallway by two gentlemen that were renting the adjoining room. Why did those two gentlemen take that man's life? All they wanted was his Social Security check. So they took his life in a brutal manner for his life. We are going to the front of this building.
I hope you dolls enjoyed that first bit of the tour. Our tour guide, Tina, she was amazing. I just love her. She's just so funny and everybody seemed to be having a good time with her. So now I am going to get into today's first story. And I have this book here, but my phone is below it. I just feel so weird holding the phone up with this gorgeous backdrop. So this is my manifestation book. That I am using to cover up my phone, but it just looks so good, so this is what I'm going to use. The first story is from Tiana and it is titled My Demon Story. So I went through a few different stories. These are not in order because I wanted to get the more spookier stories just so we can have a special Friday the 13th. And it starts off, "Hello Ashley, my name is Tiana and I'm a big fan. I have what is called the gift of prophecy. I talk to angels and people who have passed away like a medium, but I also see demons, have visions, and am able to somehow give messages to people. It's unexplainable. I just know healing is something I'm here to help people with. It's a blessing and a curse, but that's my life, lol. I have many stories, but one that has stayed with me was from 3 years ago. My best friend passed away. He had attempted suicide by hanging himself in his closet. However, when his brother arrived, he was still alive and he was still in a coma for about 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, he followed me around everywhere. He begged me to talk to his sister and about what happened to him. I was scared because only a few people at the time knew about my gift, but he wouldn't leave me alone. So I finally met up with her and he was there. I explained to her that I had a gift and he wanted me to tell her something. He showed me himself home alone, pacing back and forth in their hallway. He was really scared. He was crying. He had been trying to get a hold of people, but he had no luck. Behind him stood a black shadow in the form of a reaper. It followed him as he paced back and forth and he was talking to God. He kept saying, "God help me, I need you, help me fight it." My best friend was a strong believer in God, and he then showed me the shadow taking control of his body and forcing him into his room like a robot, and my best friend cried uncontrollably. He was fighting against the shadow, screaming for help, but when he made his way into his room, God was there at the corner of his room. God knew he had no control of his body, and my best friend's body began to prepare everything to hang himself. But as he did, he was crying, reciting Padre Nuestro prayer. The shadow was a demon. It didn't enter the room because of God's presence, but it stood by the door. Before my best friend hung himself, he showed me God telling him it was okay. None of what happened was his fault. He told him, "I've got you." As I told his sister all of this, I myself couldn't contain my emotions because of what I had envisioned. How everything happened. What happened to him was the result of brujeria. A family friend of theirs actually did something to his mom because they were jealous of the love he had for his mom. After talking to his sister, she said she had been praying for an answer of some sort and she received it. He passed away from his coma the next day. I had gone to his house after the viewing and the demon was still there. It hated me so much for revealing the truth of my friend's death that it followed me around for a few days and attacked me. I had gone to my boyfriend's house and we were watching a movie. Everyone was home and I went to use the restroom, which is in the middle of everyone's rooms. And in there, the demon attacked me. It pulled me back against the wall and started choking me. I was screaming for my life. Each time I went for the door, it pulled me back and shoved me against the wall. I screamed for help and no one heard me. I started shouting to God for help, and out of nowhere, my best friend appeared with another friend who had also passed. And as one of them fought the demon, the other opened the door for me, and when I came out of the bathroom, I was crying. I was red. My hair was a mess. I literally looked like I had gotten in a fight. My boyfriend ran to get me, and his mom and my sister ran as well. And I asked them if they had heard my screams, and they all said no. I told my boyfriend what happened, and he said, well, at least you have someone backing you up for the demons, as a joke. But it's true. I've had many demonic experiences because of my gift. They don't like that I try my best to help people heal, and when things get ugly, my best friends step forward to protect me. Since then, I've opened up more about my gift and have helped a lot of people heal. I hope my story wasn't too long, but I just wanted to give a little taste of one of my many experiences. Freaky Fridays make me feel normal because talking to dead people is my daily thing. Please keep the content going. People like me really appreciate it. Wow, that was such an intense story. Jay was here listening. He's helping me film today. And when I read that, I could not believe it. I mean, I could, but I couldn't believe it. It's very unfortunate to hear about your friend, but I'm really happy that he's there protecting you. I'm sorry about everything that you've had to experience with demons. I personally would never, ever, ever want to experience that, but thank you so much for sharing your story. You absolutely are normal. You're not normal. You are special. You have a gift, so don't ever feel like you're out of place. But thank you so much, Tiana, for sharing that incredible story. Okay, doll, so now that you've had a first taste of the first story, we are going to continue on to the tour.
Here we are, folks, on the front side of the old courthouse. Built in 1903, when Santa Ana became the county seat. Boy, that was big stuff. Lots of cities wanted that title. We won it. We built this courthouse. And it is absolutely glorious inside. Anybody get their marriage certificate here?
Yep.
She did.
Back in the 1800s, early 1900s, excuse me, a very prominent judge was in residence here, and he held his trials, heard his trials here, came in one morning early in the morning and hanged himself right above his judge's chair. And when they opened the courthouse in the morning and came in, he was gently swinging from that rope. Nobody knows why he did that, but something drove him to that. There was another gentleman named Moz Gibson, and Moz had an interesting little hobby, and I think he was very misunderstood. So what was his hobby? His hobby was bashing people's heads in with a hammer.
Damn.
See, nobody understood Moz.
Moz
So he
Gibson.
starts off in the East
Mel
Coast
Gibson,
and he
the
starts
Moz Gibson.
bashing heads. He comes across the country bashing all the way. Every once in a while he got somebody else, until he got up to Fullerton. And there he bashed somebody else's head in. But this time he got a little sloppy, and the Fullerton police picked him up, caught him in the act and picked him up. First they bring him here. There was nothing around here. So from Fullerton they had to bring him to the courthouse. It wasn't called the old courthouse then, it was just called the courthouse. Moz's trial lasted 3 hours. The judge said, "You're as guilty as can be. Take him in the back." They took him in the back room and hanged him. 3-hour trial, you're guilty, out you go. That's it. And here's a picture of Moz when they arrested him. He looks rather sorry. Take a look at his face. He looks like he's going to jail story. He'd be bashing until he retired. There he is. That corner of the building downstairs in the basement used to be a holding cell. Not Lacey's Hotel. That's for the normal people. That holding cell was for the criminally insane. That holding cell held the violent people, the crazies. One man named Joseph Schmidt brutally strangled, in fact, I think he broke his neck, of another gentleman in that cell. So, as beautiful as this courthouse is, it does have its dark sides too. Yeah, see, there's somebody doing it. It's so funny because on the other side of the building, somebody has something in there, and I think it's a potted plant. But it looks like someone leaning toward the window with a hat on. Last tour.
Okay, dolls, moving on to our next story. This one is from Bex, and it is titled Devils and Ghosts. Really scary. Hello, gorgeous. My name is Bex, and first off, I wanted to say that I love you and your channel and the new series. Keep them coming. I have 3 stories, but I'll keep them as short as possible. First story happened to me when I was about 8 years old and was living with my mom and younger brother in Azusa, California. My late uncle was visiting us, and he was in the restroom taking a shower. My mom, brother, and I were in the living room just hanging out when we heard my uncle screaming in the bathroom. We all got really scared, and my mom ran to the bathroom, and my brother and I followed. The door was locked with a small latch, so it wasn't difficult for my mom to bust it open. When my mom opened the door, she found my uncle sitting in the tub, fully pale, with the shower curtain completely pulled off and had it wrapped around him like a blanket. He was scared and shaking. He couldn't speak. I remember my mom asking him what the hell was going on and that he was scaring us. He was shaking and slowly pointed to the bathroom mirror. My mom was standing in the doorway because she didn't want my brother and I to see what was going on, but I was able to peek, and there was an outlined silhouette of the devil with a dead woman's head on his shoulders with X's on her eyes. It looked like someone got their finger and drew it with the steam of the shower. My mom got really mad at my uncle, and as she yelled at him, she said, "That's not funny." She tried to wipe it with her hand, but it did not move. The image did not budge. My mom ended up having to scrub it off the mirror with a hand scrubber for the dishes. After that date, it took me almost till my high school days to shower with hot water and with the door shut. The saddest part is that my uncle was murdered a year later. So after that incident, I never experienced anything else like that. Fast forward to 2009, I was living with my ex-boyfriend in LA, and we decided to take his little brother, nephew, and goddaughter to the zoo. We had asked his comadre if we can use her SUV because we all had the kids. So on the way back to our house, we ended up getting a flat tire, but we made it to our house in Downey. My ex and his goddaughter's dad were trying to take the tire off to replace it in the driveway. The kids were outside along with his comadre and myself. No one was in the house. I asked if I can use the bathroom, and she said yes, no problem. So I used the bathroom, and when I was coming out of the bathroom, I saw a dark shadow walk from her bedroom to her kid's bedroom. I didn't get scared at first because I thought it was one of them, so I followed it, and it led me to the closet. When I turned the corner, I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" in a joking way, and immediately freaked out to an empty closet. I quickly hightailed out of there and went back outside where everyone was. I didn't want to freak anyone out, but I told my ex I wanted to go home now. As we drove home, I told him what had happened. That's when he told me he believed me because he said his comadre, which is his prima as well, has had something follow her in every house she lived in. He told me some crazy, scary stories about their childhood. When she found out what I saw, she told me some stuff that she was experiencing in the same house. She said that her mom and dad were into brujeria, and one day she was with her dad and he went into a friend's garage to get something and for her to wait in the car. As she grew impatient, she got curious and decided to go peek in the garage. She said when she looked in, she saw a homemade bar with other men in there casually drinking and talking, and she said in the corner she saw the devil playing cards with a goat. She said they both made eye contact with her and she screamed. Her dad screamed back at her, telling her to get the fuck out. She ran down the street and hid under a car. After my experience, she asked me if I can go to her house to babysit for her because she was going to an Ice Cube concert. I agreed, but was still a little nervous. I took my ex's little brother with me so he could keep the oldest company with video games. The boys were about 11 and her daughter was about 3 or 4. So the kids were in the room with the scary closet playing video games. I had just finished cooking the spaghetti for dinner, so I was in the kitchen washing the dishes. Her sink was located in the corner of her kitchen at an angle, so in the corner of my eye, I can see the living room and TV was on, as well as the lights. As I was washing dishes, I saw a tall black figure in the corner of my eye walking back and forth in the living room across the TV, as if it was trying to get my attention. I never turned my head to look in its direction because I was watching it with my peripheral vision. I felt if I turned, it most likely would disappear. So I watched it pace back and forth about 4 times. Then I yelled out to her son. He came to the kitchen and I asked him about it. He calmly said, "Oh yeah, we always see that shadow." I freaked the hell out because he wasn't even scared. It's like they just accepted it. I don't have any contact with her anymore, but I know a few years back she moved out because things got a lot worse, to where her baby girl was lifted from her bed and dropped. She was okay, but it was scary as hell, so she doesn't live there anymore. Okay, so this is the last one that just happened this week. It's Friday, so this was on a Monday. I suffer from insomnia and usually don't fall asleep until 2, 3, or 4, and sometimes 6 a.m. I work second shift, so it's not too bad. So Monday at about 4:30 a.m., I was laying down trying to fall asleep. I was laying on my stomach facing my vanity on the right side of my bed, and my closet is on the left. As I was lying there trying to fall asleep, a very unnerving and dreadful feeling came over me. I felt as if I wasn't alone. I felt someone in my room walked past my closet. I heard the feet on the carpet, almost like if someone was trying to not wake me, but could still hear me. I do not share my room, but I live with my cousin and her 2 sons who are 17 and 25 in a 4-bedroom house in Montclair. No one comes in my room and we all respect each other, so if we did, we usually knock first. Plus, I have nothing in my room that they would need. Anyways, I just froze and tried asking myself if it was sleep paralysis, but I was awake for sure. I finally got the nerve to just turn around, but when I did, nothing was there. So I just laid back down. Meanwhile, our dog was howling by the window, scratching the wall, which is very common of her because she's a big crybaby who always wants to be let in. But this time it was different. She seemed mad by the way she was whining. We only let her in after dark after we bathe her, so it was strange how she just kept at it at 4 a.m. She never does that. Occasionally, she barks with the neighbor's dogs late at night, but she was crying, getting mad, and scratching my wall from the outside like she sensed something there. I decided to tell my cousin, and he asked me if I felt a hard draft of air when I heard someone walk past my closet, because my bed is next to it. I said no. He said because last week, when he was home alone in the daytime, that he was walking to his room, and when he passed my room, he felt a strong gust of air hit the back of his neck. What makes it more terrifying is that my bedroom door is always shut when I'm not home. It's a long hallway with no windows. Well, those are my stories. I hope you like them and share them. Love you so much. Take care. Those were intense.
That's crazy.
Wow. First of all, it's scary that your ex's cousin, her parents were into that stuff, but the dark stuff, and she witnessed that. I mean,
It's crazy.
I would never want to get near my parents again. And I'm very sorry to hear about your uncle. It's crazy that he experienced that and then a year he passed away. So I'm very sorry to hear that. But thank you so much, Bex, for sharing those incredible stories with us.
Come on this way, we're going to see what else we have. Okay, every city has a main street. Well, we have Main Street too, but it's way over there. But the heartbeat of Santa Ana is 4th Street. Everything happens on 4th Street. Day of the Dead Festival on 4th Street. Gay Pride Festival on 4th Street. Everything happens right here. Cinco de Mayo on 4th Street. We have the site of Santa Ana's first jail. That's the first jail. Yeah. And of course it was Leo Lacey in charge of everything. Leo had some little difficulties, and everybody was laughing at him. Oh, Leo, you can't keep your people. What's going on at your jail? Because that poor little ill-fitted jail had been broken out of several times, sometimes by the same inmate. They round him up once to bring him back, and he did it again. And once that jail was broken into and someone stole all the pillows and blankets from the cells. Honestly. So Neil's doing a slow burn and he's really hoping to find some way to redeem his reputation. And he found it. He found it in this gentleman, Francisco Torres. Ah, there he is. Francisco really messed things up for himself. Francisco was a ranch hand, and he worked on a big farm in orchard, which is now Lake Forest. It was owned by Madame Helena Majeska. So Francisco said, "What did I do wrong? I thought I was a good worker." "No, you're a good worker. Everyone that has a job has to pay a poll tax. Even me. It's something new." Oh, Francisco has a quick temper and he's very angry. He's so angry he goes and he gets stinking drunk. And he comes back and he argues with the supervisor again. And again the supervisor says, "Nothing I can do for you. That isn't good enough." Francisco goes into the shed, grabs a sharp pickaxe, came running out and buried it in his grave. Francisco now realizes what he's done and he heads for the Mexican border. He's going to beat it out of the country.
Okay, dolls, this next story is from Senia. Hi, Ashley. My name is Senia Lovejoy. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I absolutely adore you and I love Freaky Fridays. It's so fun. I have been a fan of yours for a while now. Yours was actually the first YouTube channel I subscribed to. Oh, thank you. Here is one of my scary stories. I have a lot. Just some background, my mother was kind of like a curandera. She has done everything from a simple cleansing to full-on exorcisms. She has always wanted me to follow into her footsteps because I am naturally extremely sensitive to energies and the spirit world. Sometimes feeling or energies become so extreme for me to the point of causing my hands and feet to feel like a million needles are stabbing them, or my ears getting super hot, itchy, and red. I can't imagine what it would be like if I tried to develop that gift, so I have not been interested in following her footsteps. My story takes place when I was about 8, back in 1993. We were living in a warehouse that was converted into a residential home. The layout was a big square with rooms built in. When you walked in the front door, there to the left was my parents' room, then my sister's room right after. So the right was the living room, the kitchen, dining room. Off that to the right, bedroom 3. The east wall of my sister's room was shared with the kitchen. She always used to sleep with the radio on. We had 2 dogs, 3 cats at the time. It was late, about midnight. I was laying on the couch. The back of the couch faces the 2 bedrooms. My parents were asleep with their door closed, and my sister was sleeping with the door half open and the radio on. We had a huge kitchen table, like 7 by 7 feet, solid wood. I had left a bowl with a spoon in it on the table about 2 feet from the edge. So I'm laying there, minding my own business, living my best 8-year-old life, with both dogs sleeping on the floor in front of the TV and all 3 cats were laying with me, when I hear the bowl being dragged the whole length of the table, then crashed to the floor with a lot of force. I sat straight up, looked into the kitchen, didn't see anything, but it felt like someone was staring right back at me. Both dogs are now standing in a defensive way. The cats start walking into the kitchen like they are hunting something. They go to the corner that backs up with my sister's room. I'm screaming over to see where they stopped, and they are facing the corner, hissing and clawing like they were trying to attack something. At this point, I'm a few feet away from my sister's door when the cats just stop. Then I hear, no joke, this nasty, growling voice start singing the song that was on the radio. I'll never forget the sound or the song. It was Janet Jackson's All For You. I ran so fast to my parents' door, pounded till they let me in. I don't remember what I said to my mom. If anything, I just remember her saying she would take care of it in the morning. She told me to go to sleep with my sister, and that was a big, fat nope. I got right in between my parents, dug myself in as far under my mom as I could. The next day, yes, there is still more, I told my mom everything that happened. And this freaking lady says they always follow you home. So she goes to get what my dad liked to call her juju tin to start her cleaning. She has me stand in front of the couch and starts going around saying whatever her prayer was with her water and stuff, just following the flow of the layout. Then she gets to the corner and starts moving around randomly like she's following something or chasing someone. At this point, it feels like I'm being squeezed, a lot of pressure on my chest. My mom is getting louder and louder, but I can't hear what she is saying. Her face was super red. She's sweating. It's like she was working out. All I can hear is this loud screeching or screaming sound, just so loud I thought my eardrums were going to burst. Apparently, I was the only one who can hear it, but my mom could feel it. It felt so long. Then just like that, it stopped. My mom did a cleaning on me, and when she was done, she just says, "Well, that one won't be back," and goes about her daily business. That's probably the scariest one I have because that was the most scared I have ever been in my life. And I have had a loaded shotgun pointed like a foot from my face, but I have a ton of stories. I will send more if you want. Thank you for reading. I know it has been super long with a lot of detail. Please keep doing this series. Wishing you the best. Imagine that happening and needing to sort of be cleansed in such an intense way. Girl, I am so glad you're okay. I'm very sorry that you had to go through that. Cannot even imagine what that feels like, but I am glad you are here to share your stories, and thank you so much for sharing your stories.
This gentleman is downstairs. He has a great big desk that's up against the brick wall, and he's in there doing the paperwork for his business. He feels so strongly that someone is next to him, right next to him, that he's starting to swat the air. And this is not a man who swats the air easily. But you know, if you put your face next to your sweetie, you can feel that little electricity that we all have. And that man feels it so strongly it's starting to drive him nuts. Ernie then told him that this is the former location of Santa Anna's first undertaker, mortician, coroner, post-mortem photographer, and furniture builder. He would then prop that coffin up in this window. Wow. In the hopes that somebody would recognize
That
him.
window.
I'm not making it up. But remember, back then, death happened a
Not too far,
lot.
babe.
It's really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You cool or what?
Yeah. I'm appreciating the stories.
Yeah.
No questions at all?
You guys having fun?
Yes. So awesome.
Yeah? Everybody having
Love
fun?
it.
Yeah.
Not scared.
You're not scared? Are you sure?
The alleyway was
just wait till the end.
Okay, dolls, this next story is from Myra, and it is titled The Hand in the Closet. Hi, love. My name is Myra, and I love your channel. I love it even more now with such an original idea for Freaky Fridays. So anywho, this will be very long. Sorry. I have always been what a lot of people would say a vessel or easy target for the paranormal. Ever since I can remember, I've always had something happen to me. I suffer from multiple sleep disorders, so it's not uncommon for me to have bad dreams, or bad daydreams, as my mom called it then, but I know that this was not one of those. My story is from many years ago at the age of 10. I still vividly remember it. My family and I used to live in a very old building with 50 or so apartments. It was 3 stories tall. This building was over 100 years old. At that point, it was a studio apartment with one of those old giant spinning closet doors that had a mirror on one side and a Murphy bed on the other. My mom and dad slept in that bed, and my brother and I shared another bed on the opposite side of the room. One day after I came back from school, my brother and I began playing hide and seek. Honestly, the apartment was perfect for it because of all the different cabinets and furniture there. The closet was a huge walk-in closet, and my mom had all our clothes hanging in 2 rows, one on top and one on bottom. So I was easily able to just crouch down in between the clothes. I could hear my brother in the kitchen finish counting, and so I remained quiet. I suddenly felt a cold feeling, like if I was inside of one of those meat fridges. I figured I was just feeling a breeze from the hall since the door was open. After all, I was near it. I felt a hand touch my shoulder and thought, Damn, he found me already. As I was about to come out of my hiding spot, I heard my brother calling out my name from the living room. I froze. Who the heck was touching me then? I was afraid to look because I just knew it was another one of those paranormal moments. I knew if I looked, I'd even get more scared, and I didn't want that. So I just ran out as fast as I could, and I ran into my kitchen hugging my mom, crying. She asked what had happened, and I explained. She brushed it off as just my imagination, like always. Well, the next day, again, my brother and I were playing hide and seek, and yet again, I made the mistake of hiding in the closet. I had forgotten about what had happened, so I just happily stayed there. Suddenly again, I felt the cold, and that moment I remembered. I was about to run out again, but then I felt that same hand grab me by the arm and then put its hand over my mouth. I couldn't move or scream, and I was paralyzed in fear. I suddenly felt what I thought felt like breathing down my neck and quickly shut my eyes. I'm not sure how long I was sitting there with tears rolling down my eyes, but all I know is that my mom got worried and went to look for me. When she found me, I was curled up into a ball on the floor, still crying silently and eyes shut. She helped me get up, and ever since that day, I stopped playing hide and seek with my brother. I've had so many more experiences than just that one, ever since I was 5 years old. Back then, I was terrified of it all, but now I've grown used to it. I'm no longer afraid, and I've kind of learned to embrace it. I did research on the building we used to live a few years back and found out that in the 1920s, it was used as a mental health facility that housed children, elderly, and adults. But the apartment we lived in specifically had an unstable schizophrenic man who killed himself because he believed that the voices were going to find him. If you want to hear more about my experiences up until now, I have a lot more to share. Thanks so much for your videos. Hope you enjoyed this one. All of you guys are so young when you're experiencing things like this. How did you even get through it? There is no way I would be able to. At all. I'm just like 10, 8, what? I'm very happy that you were not harmed. Thank you so much for loving this series and all the compliments. I loved your story. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, everybody come right here for a moment. For the next 15-20 minutes, we are no longer in the year of 2019. The year is 1889, and we are coming into the home of Dr. Willella Howe Waffle. She was Orange County's very first lady doctor.
Ooh.
Yes, back in a time when women just didn't do those things. But this spunky lady knew she had something to give to the world. She persevered everything, got her degree. She specialized in delivering babies. She was homeopathic. She went the natural way as much as she could. She was a benevolent lady. She treated everyone. Together with her first husband, Dr. Alvin Howe, they had this house built. She divorced him. She married Edson Waffle. That's how she gets the two last names. So we're going to go on into this house, and the house is going to be dark. We're going into the front parlor. I'll tell you all about it. The Historic Society has some things out around the house for our volunteer appreciation dinner this coming Saturday, just a few days. And all that really means is that you can be a part of this ghost walk too, because if you touch any of it, I'll kill you. Watch the steps, come this way.
It's gonna cost you.
Oh, the smells.
It's okay if I have the light on, right?
No cell phone flashlights on, but in 1889 we just had our 130th birthday party. This house was owned by Orange County's first woman physician. She practiced medicine in this house because she was not allowed to practice medicine right up the street in the city hospital. Why? Because she was a woman. She specialized in delivering babies, and in her career she delivered over 1,000 babies. Wow. And they were affectionately called waffle babies. There's tons
Waffle
of
babies.
descendants of waffle babies out there, and they come to us all the time. When we had the 130th birthday party for this house, we had 48 direct descendants of the Howe and Waffle family. We only know one person who did die in our carriage barn, which is the building out in the garden. It originally was attached to this house, or very closely attached to this house. A young girl came to Willella and she was going to have a baby any time. And she said, Willella, I'm not married, I'm single, I am alone in the world and I'm going to have this baby, can you help me? And Willella said, you betcha I can. So she housed that young mother in the upstairs of the carriage barn. It's very nice up there, it's like an apartment. And that young girl gave birth to triplets. And one lucky family adopted all three of them. Boom, they hit the jackpot. But after a few days, that young mother died. She died in our carriage barn.
This next one is from Kauai. Hi, beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to read my story. I enjoy watching your videos and I love you, Dollface. Well, I love you more. Thank you so much for watching my videos. So I've always had weird ghost activity happen around me everywhere I go since I was a kid, and I'm now 22. Ever since my boyfriend and I moved into our new house a year ago, it's gotten worse. This has by far been the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm scared being in my own home by myself whenever my boyfriend leaves to work. It happened yesterday on August 23rd. I woke up around 4 a.m. feeling extremely nauseous, and I thought I was going to be sick, so I sat up in my bed, trying to calm myself down, and my boyfriend was still awake in our room playing his game and asked me if I was okay. I told him, yeah, just a little sick to my stomach, and that I'll be fine. I just need to relax myself. And for some reason, I felt like something told me to touch my leg, and so I did, and I felt something really weird. When I moved my blanket off and shined a light on my leg, I saw a big hand indentation on my calf, as if someone or something was gripping it hard as. I was so shocked and scared that I started shaking and my nausea just intensified. I showed my boyfriend and he was shocked and didn't know what to say, besides to try and comfort me and come up with an explanation on what could have caused it. I'm a very small person with tiny hands. The handprint on my leg looked as if it was a man's hand. I think whatever this thing was trying to send me a message, because I had recently cleaned up the guest room for my mom that's going to be coming for the holidays, and that it didn't like that I was moving stuff around in its room. Ever since then, I have felt like something is watching me. Whenever I walk out of the room, or if I leave the house, I feel like something is going to grab my hand when I go to close the door behind me. I plan on having my house cleansed, but at the same time, I'm very scared of pissing it off even more. Wish me luck, and thank you again for taking the time to read. So she has attached photos, which I will have right here. And that's clearly a handprint. Girl, you better hurry up and get that house cleansed. I would have done it the following day. It's better that you do something instead of letting it feel like it owns you or owns that house or the apartment. Get it cleansed. Thank you so much, love, for sharing your story.
Now, one of our members is our go-to expert as far as antiques. She used to work for Antiques Roadshow. She knows everything. She had something overwhelm her when she was upstairs in the carriage barn, so much so that she could barely fight her way down the stairs and came outside crying her eyes out. Something overwhelmed her there, to the point that to this day she will not talk about it. She doesn't want to open that portal up again. Ernie's investigators are the only ones that are allowed in this house. They're here frequently, and they're welcome whenever they want to come in here. They are the only ones because they are the real thing. One of the investigators is an older gentleman named Don. And Don's a riot. He must be late 70s. He is repeatedly drawn to one of the closets in one of the bedrooms. And wherever he goes, he stops and says, that child is so strong. He's there in this closet. And he's all excited. He's hiding in this closet, not out of fear, but out of fun. There's something fun about this child. And he's repeatedly, I asked him one day, Don, how long have you been doing this? And he said, I've known since I was about 5 or 6. And that's all he'll say. What a cool answer. And he is really the real thing, and he has the most interesting face, and when he starts to go into his mode, everything changes. It's marvelous. One of Ernie's friends, Ellen, is a fifth-generation medium, 5 women in her family. She uses the house for a psychic development workshop from time to time. It'll be every Wednesday night for 4 or 5 weeks. And whenever we rent a house like that, there has to be some house sitter here, and it's usually me, because I wouldn't miss that for the world. And Ellen has one of these peaceful, soulful looks on her face. She's a marvelous lady. She is the real deal. But she says that there's a little boy right at the bottom of the staircase, and he's in a long white nightshirt. And he's holding onto the banister like he's hiding, but he's kind of looking out like maybe he's supposed to be in bed, but he wants to see what the party is all about. And sometimes she sees him, and sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes she'll tell me, I haven't seen the little boy all night. And then sometimes she'll tell me, the minute I came around the corner, he was there, and he's still there now. And then sometimes she'll say, he's gone. But he comes and goes as he pleases. So that might be our little feet up in the hallway there. So who else is in here? We don't know.
This next story is from Vicky. And hola mija, muchas gracias for creating this series. I love it so much and have been dying to add in this little story. My grandma told me this when I was little, and I have always been terrified by it. She promised me it was true, and because she is grandma, I have no reason to not believe it. Here it goes. When my grandma was a little girl, she lived on a farm in El Paso, Texas. One of the things my grandma loved to do was play jacks. Her mama had strict bedtime rules, and because of this, my little grandma had to be in bed by 9 p.m. Her mother would tell her that all good little girls go to sleep at 9, so they will be fast asleep before midnight. She threatened my grandma that if she wasn't asleep by midnight, the devil would come. This always scared me when she said it. Pretending to go to sleep one night, but really wanting to play jacks, my grandma lay in her bed until she heard her mother go to her own room and shut the door behind her. Because my grandma had been caught after bedtime hours playing jacks on the floor due to the sound of the ball bouncing, she decided to sneak out into the barn to play there. Once in the barn, she began playing. Bounce, then swoop, and so on. She played for hours without interruption because no one heard her. She was having such a fun time that she failed to realize it was past midnight. After a while, a cat walked into the barn. It came right up to her and sat, watching as the ball bounced. She was on 4s, and as she bounced the ball and swooped up the jacks, she held out her hand waiting to catch the ball. But it didn't come down. She looked up and did not see it. She looked right in front of her where the cat was sitting and noticed something odd about it. She said it was sitting human-like with its paws out in front holding the ball. She claimed it also had a creepy grin and its eyes were all black. She got up and ran out of the barn to the house crying for her mama. She swore that she never disobeyed her mom again, and she kept to her bed until she fell asleep. This story gave me nightmares, and I have always been afraid to see a cat after midnight, even now. Ghosts, the devil, and brujas. It all frightens me and gives me chills, but nothing scares me more than picturing what that cat looked like glaring back at my grandma. I'm so glad my black cats never did anything creepy like that. That is scary, and it's true. Grandmas always have these most scariest stories, especially when it's either like Texas or Mexico. I feel like those are the most common locations. So thank you, doll, and your grandma for sharing that story.
Here's a housekeeper.
There's different like sorts of volunteers, so they have and then they have associates who just come and help like when they have events and stuff. They got something specific that they can do.
Oh, I think
That way it's
Grayed out,
this is
probably.
where the dog used to go to the
Huh.
bathroom.
That's a spot.
yeah, he and I were really into it.
Oh, sweet typewriter.
Good, no.
I know, you talk about my cat going.
It makes me feel better.
Leeches? Got some leeches in there. Dude, this thing's sweet, man. Umbilical cords recycled for surgery. Dude, check this wheelchair out.
So I hope you dolls are enjoying the tour as well as these stories. So getting back to another story, this one is from Carolina, and it is Encounter with a Demon. It was about midnight 2 years ago. I had gone out to get some water. For some reason, I happened to look up towards the living room. I was terrified at what I saw sitting on my couch. There sat a monster-looking evil demon with vampire teeth, long bony fingers, no facial features except for devil's pointy teeth. Was very gray and smelled like sulfur. Ooh, that's a sign. I hauled ass to my bedroom. I then proceeded to turn on every light in my bedroom and began to read my Bible. I started reading in the book of Psalms. In the Bible, I was so terrified. I began to pray for the Lord to take the evil out of my house. Then I started shouting this in the house of the Lord Jesus Christ. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Leave this house alone and leave now, for God rules this house. To say I did not sleep a wink that night is an understatement. The next morning, I called our minister and told him what happened to me the night before. He told me that the devil was trying to test me to see if I was really a saved child of God. My minister told me that since I am saved and have accepted the Lord Jesus, nothing would happen to me, for nothing could tear me away from my dear Lord and Savior, and nothing can tear me away from Him. We went home that day. I felt 10 times better than I did before. I have done everything to get rid of the demon. Later that day, my mom and I put salt around my house to protect it from any more evil to enter, for the salt is supposed to be a sacred weapon. Then my dad took out an uncracked huevo, or an egg, and he rubbed it all over my body to cleanse any residual energy that the demon may have left behind or in me. Then after that, he cracked the egg open in a glass of water, and he said, "Let's see if the eye pops up." And sure enough, an eye popped up, indicating I had bad energy inside of me. My father then threw the egg with the eye far away as humanly possible. I'm glad my father knows all the Mexican traditions and healing my abuelita taught him growing up. The eggs always save you. The fact that you saw that on your couch is so creepy and so terrifying. When I read these stories, I always visualize, but even when I visualize, I still just can't, you just can't imagine the fear you're going through. No thank you. And I'd rather not know that experience, so I hope I never have that experience. But thank you so much, Carolina, for sharing your story. Okay, dolls, this next story is from Angela, and it's titled, I Think I Might Be Living with a Demon. Hello, love. My name is Angela. First, I wanted to let you know that I love your channel. I've been a subscriber for many years now, and it just keeps getting better and better. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, babe. Now to the story. For many generations, the women in my family have had a particular gift. Only the women are able to see spirits, all kinds of spirits, good ones and bad ones, even dead children too. But I've always been the exception. Since I was little, I was only able to hear them and feel them. I remember growing up in my grandma's house. I could hear the spirits walking all over the house, and sometimes I would even hear them cry. My grandma always told me not to be afraid of them because they were just sad, lost spirits that haven't found their way yet. But she did warn me to not speak to them until I was sure that they were spirits and not demons. Since I was never able to see them, I always thought that maybe my gift was just wasn't strong enough until I bought my first house a couple years ago. The first few months in the new house, everything was fine, until one day I was taking a shower and I saw the silhouette of a dark hand in the outside of the shower, close to me like it was trying to touch me. I got a little scared, but I didn't think much of it. Then a few weeks later, I was watching TV in my living room and I saw a big dark shadow standing right by the basement door. Then another day again, I was in the kitchen and I saw the shadow pass next to me. First, I thought I was just imagining things, until I realized my cat could see it too. Every time the shadow would show up, my cat would come running to me and would stare in the direction of the shadow. One time I heard footsteps coming up the basement door, and my cat stood up right by the door, staring into the dark basement, and the noise stopped, almost like my cat wasn't allowing the shadow to come in. At the beginning, I was excited because I thought I had finally developed my gift. But a few months ago, I started having bad dreams. First, I thought it was just nightmares, like sleep paralysis or something, until I realized I would wake up with random bruises that I couldn't explain how they happened all over my body. Now I'm scared because from what I've heard from the elder women in my family, if it was a spirit, it would not be trying to touch me or harm me. Also, this presence feels like something I've never felt before, so I'm afraid it might be a demon. I don't know if it was already here in the house and it didn't show itself at first, and I don't know if it followed me here. I don't know what to do because I can't afford to move right now, but I don't want it to get attached to me because then I would be really sorry for the long story. I just really needed to share it with someone than just my family, and none of them has ever dealt with a demon. If anyone has any suggestions on what to do, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, love. That is so terrifying, especially feeling so helpless like that. Um, I mean, I just think of cleansing and saging. Have you had anyone come out and do that? Any of my subscribers, if you can recommend something to Angela, please do, because I do not want her to keep having to deal with this. It is so terrifying, especially hearing everybody's stories and the fact that she's going through that. Please, if you have a suggestion, please share. Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing your story, and I really hope someone here has a solution for you. Okay, dolls, this next story is from Elle. Ever since I can remember, I attract ghosts without trying, so you can imagine how bad it gets when I do actually try. Little did I know making a homemade Ouija board would actually have some effect. My own mother doesn't even know I did this, and still doesn't know to this day. I just played dumb when weird things started happening in our home. I would do the same thing. First, I would notice my dog growling at the corner, and my dog is the definition of friendly. I would blow it off until it started becoming a daily habit. And one time I decided to humor him and get up. The corner was freezing cold. From there, I would feel like I was being watched, and one night that was confirmed when I saw my dog sit up and growl and follow something walking into my room and stand next to my bed. The only thing is, I couldn't see anything, but the freezing cold feeling was there, and something worse. I felt like this horrible feeling of dread had hid underneath the blanket. Next night, I woke up to go to the bathroom, as young people do, only to have this faceless woman standing in my door. I hid under the blanket until the morning. Didn't say a word about it until my mom mentioned that her boyfriend at the time noted seeing a young girl in the living room, and she saw a man that gave her the same feeling I had that night. My dog woke me up. Friends wouldn't come over at one point because they felt like something was watching them in our guest room, and it was too cold even with heavy blankets. The porcelain clown we had in the guest room would rock in its rocking chair, and we checked to make sure the cabinet wasn't at an angle. I would find it out of its chair with the door open, and the door to the cabinet was extremely difficult to open. You needed some serious elbow grease to open it. I got a porcelain doll for Christmas, and the same thing would happen. The only difference is I locked her case. My mechanical Bratz doll would tell me she felt lonely when I didn't play with her. This wasn't even one of her programmed sayings. My Furby would turn on without batteries being inside. I know I had one of those 15 plus years later. Yes, whatever was in my home was able to follow me. My mom would be attacked, scratched, pulled, pushed into walls. I would hear my name constantly, even outside in the backyard. My boyfriend at the time complained of feeling like he was being watched all night on the couch and never wanted to come over because he got this overwhelming feeling of hate. Same with one of my mom's friends who stayed over. I would hear footsteps follow me all over the house, and I tested this multiple times to make sure. It only happened when I was alone in the house, in the morning, afternoon, and night. Our AC broke during one summer, and I was never hot. I was cold, in fact, and my dogs would sit on top of me growling. I would feel the back of my hair slightly move as if someone was running fingers through it, so I figured it was the male ghost that was doing it. Just don't know why. I don't let people other than my stylist touch my hair because of that. I have never told any paranormal group about this or church because I'm afraid it will make things worse. Over time, things have died down. Only once in a while will I get a spike in activity. So that's my Freaky Friday tale. Thanks for reading. You have so much going on. That is terrifying. This thing has followed you for 15 years. Have you ever thought about seeing a medium? Maybe someone who could possibly communicate with it and tell you why it's there? I don't know. That's just something I'm thinking of right now. But I really hope that thing goes away and leaves you alone. Thank you so much, Elle, for sharing your story. Okay, dolls, so we are coming to the last story for Freaky Friday. I really hope you enjoyed that tour. Like I said, it is so much fun. I definitely recommend it. So now, one last story. Hello, Ashley. My name is Giovanna, and I am a big fan of your channel. Me and my cousin binge watch all of your Freaky Friday videos in a day. She was the one that convinced me to share my stories. She's 13, by the way. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. So where do I begin? I have so many stories about like everything aliens, La Llorona, and ghost. I don't even remember when it all started, but I do remember some real freaky ones. So let's start with the less scary ones for the most part. Aliens. So I had always dreamt very vivid dreams. It scares me sometimes how real they can get, because whatever I dream is either clues of what can happen in real life or my whole dream becomes a reality. My first time ever having an encounter or a real vivid dream with aliens was when I was 6 months pregnant with my third child. I woke up at around 1:30 a.m. to use the bathroom. I woke up and I was in the back, so it was kind of hard for me to sit up, of course. So when I finally sat up, my room looked like my room, but it didn't. My room is connected to my daughter's room, but the wall that is in between our room was missing, and I could see directly to the big window in my daughter's room that faces the yard. So when I started second guessing if I was awake or if I was asleep, just having a vivid dream, in my daughter's window was an alien looking inside, just standing there. It was probably minutes I froze up. I didn't know what to do when I blinked a lot and it was gone. Everything was back to normal. The wall was there, everything. A couple weeks go by and my husband was going out for conchitas. One morning, like early morning 6 a.m., because it was still dark outside, and I stayed home with the kids. So next thing I see, my husband running inside to take me outside to look at something. When I go outside, I see a UFO like 3 houses away from my house. Just there in the air, I ran inside. I was so scared my husband stayed there. I was like, oh, hell no. And right when the sun came up, it disappeared. Right before I had my daughter, I had one last dream. In my dream, I was dreaming about a lady with a long dress nightgown being abducted from her house, but I recognized the neighborhood. My friend of many years lived in the same neighborhood. I woke up scared and nervous, so first thing I did was tell my friend, and of course she knows all about my crazy stories and dreams, but she was not a believer. So weeks go by and she calls me, one day hella freaked out because her dad had sent her a picture, and guess what it was? It was a freaking UFO, like 4 houses down her street. Since then, she became a believer of my crazy dreams. Wow. And the last mini story is ghost. So once again, I was pregnant with my third child. I was trying to go to sleep. My husband was playing his PS4 sitting in the chair. A chair his back was towards the main door. Next thing I noticed a white figure with dark black hair reaching for my husband, and it turned and looked at me and it attacked me. It was the most freakiest, scariest shit ever. I passed out and started convulsing. I woke up. When I woke up, I couldn't even talk or sit up. By this time, it was already like 5 a.m. I woke up so terrified and mad because, of course, my husband didn't see anything. I told him what had happened, and he just told me to pray, and of course I did. But every time I would close my eyes, I would just see her face. I finally fell asleep when the sun came up, and my whole room was being touched by the sun. After days went by, my 3-year-old started telling me she would see some white people. I was like, where? She would point outside. She would get anxiety attacks every time we would go outside the house at night. It was getting out of hand, so I contacted someone to pray for her and bless the house. When the professionals came to bless the house and pray over my daughter, the lights in my kitchen would dim down and up. I was hella creeped out, but I knew everything was going to be fine. After the prayer, everything went back to normal. We still live here, and it has been years of peace and joy. Those were our spooky stories for today. Like I said, they were really intense today because I was reading through them and I really wanted to get some creepy ones for Friday the 13th. Thank you, dolls, so much. I appreciate that we are finally on episode 14th and so happy that it fell on Friday the 13th. I love you, dolls, so much, and I will see you soon. Have a freaky Friday. Bye, loves.